What the hell do I know? I'm just JB, middle-aged dad with ADD. Candid combos, jokes so lame, jabronis pulling a poker face. Just a couple of dudes with ADD. What the hell do I know? With JB.
Yeah, we are back, baby. I'm so excited about this episode, and honestly, I think I posted the other day we hit 15,000 followers, but we actually hit 16,000 followers.
Who are these people?
16,000 followers now, which is crazy. Every time it keeps coming, we're getting more and more interaction. I've got more DMs, more comments, and so it's great. Where I really appreciate you guys following along on this journey. It is so much fun. I told this on the last pod I did. You guys weren't there. I did one on location. And
I was what?
I know. Sorry. I didn't mean to. My apologies, guys. My apologies. But I told this story briefly on when I was with my buddy Tommy there, and it's a great pod. I hope everybody watches it and goes back and sees that pod. But I was at an event not too long ago, and this kid was there, and he walked up to me, and I didn't know him, right? But he walked up to me, and he was a young kid, right, college age, and he says, man, I've been watching your podcast. It's doing so good. How many subscribers you have? And I said, I thought this was amazing that he was saying that. I thought it's so good. It's just so good. And all of a sudden I realized he was like out of his gourd. You know, he had too much to drink. And it was like 20 minutes later, he was laying on the ground like puke. And I was like, yeah, we're a $10 podcast. I was like, now I'm going to work. Now I'm going to work at you implementing the things that we're saying here. Yeah. But honestly, we look. I don't know if you've been there before. Unfortunately, in my younger days, I've done some things I wish I hadn't of. And so, listen, no judgment here, judgment-free zone. So that young person, if you're watching this, man, keep watching it. It's totally cool. You were fine.
What was his name?
I don't even know if I caught his name. Honestly, I don't know. I caught his name, but I'm sure like the fact that he's listening to this, he is trying to dial in, and everybody sometimes overindulges in fun. Yeah. And I think he kind of hit that way. Hey, welcome to another episode. Welcome to our Floors.com studio.
Yeah,
baby.
Yeah.
Yes, Floors.com. Floors.com. That's FLOORZZ.com is your one-stop shop for your next flooring or wall covering remodel or new build. So they got, I need to ask Mike. I keep forgetting. Listen, if you tell them the jabroni sent you, they will treat you like family. I think they'll treat you like family no matter what. Yeah. But just for my benefit alone, call in, order some floors. They'll walk you through the process. They'll help design. They have so many tools available to them. You can do it. If you know what you want, you just go online and order. Yeah. But if you need to talk to somebody, they'll put you in touch with somebody and walk you through your project. But when you do that, be sure to say the jabroni sent you, and just for my benefit, that'd be perfect.
Treat you like a redheaded stepchild.
Yeah. Say, please, can you leave? But I want to introduce our guest today, the one and the only Rob McNair.
What's up?
Yes, from another state away. So glad to have you here. I know
this is cool.
You had a church in Atlanta, and we actually. What's crazy is we were saying this as you walked in. This is our first time actually meeting face to face. We've known each other for a decade. Well, we've known each other for a decade. Yeah. And we were introduced through another mutual friend that I'm not sure they may have helped out at an event you were doing or something going on, or they were doing the inflatables, Larry and Tanya Harbor, I think, and the Harbors, and they've got great inflatables. I'm trying to think their inflatable company in Astro, I think it's Astro Jump or something. All the stuff you have a kid party and all that. And I'm telling you, this guy has. If you're in the Metro Atlanta area, look them up, Astro Turf, and check them out. They're great folks, great family. But he has he goes to all the conferences and stuff. There's like conferences for bouncy house stuff, right? Yeah. And he gets because I see his posts, and he'll get the Riding Bull one, and then he has and he goes and does all the festivals at schools and things like that. And so his warehouse that he has so much to choose from. This isn't like the guy that went to Walmart and got the bouncy house. Like these are industrial clean. They clean them, they sanitize them, they have to do all this stuff. but they're great believers, great people. Yeah. They loved what Rob was doing. He was launching his own church. I happen to be launching a church, and I might actually launch my church maybe a year or two before yours. At the time we're doing, I say my church, it's Jesus' church. I mean, I was just hanging out. Man, I was just hanging out. Look, we were a $10 church and a $10 podcast, baby. So I was just hanging out, man. And but I'm so excited about it. Getting you on because we really get a chance, and we're going to jump into you and that experience and everything else you've got going on. I'm gonna while I'm talking, gonna adjust these headphones. I'm probably gonna end up messing them up, and then it'll all go crazy. But it helps me hear everybody. We're getting so high tech and yet so lo-fi at the same time.
In other words, he's just getting old. He can't hear.
That's exactly. These are my podcast hearing aids. But before we jump into what you're doing, Rob, thank you there for that, my man.
Sir.
Before we jump into everything Rob McNair and have our combo, which I'm excited to have. Yes, I want you to play it's time for you to play What the Hell Do I Know?
Okay.
With Rob McNair.
All right.
And it's seven questions, rapid succession, no wrong answers. You can pass if you need to. We're going to put the clock on. Juice, you ready with the clock? Let's see.
Do I have to have like a number of seconds to actually answer?
We play it by ear here. I've only had one group fail. So number one, do you remember your first bike?
Yeah, I do.
What was
a Schwinn.
Schwinn, baby.
Yes, it was a Schwinn. It was a gray Schwinn with white tires.
Yes, that is awesome. Was it jumping at BMX style or more like street rider?
It was
banana
it was
seat?
like it's BMX style. I wanted the little pegs on the side.
Yeah, everybody did. Everybody did.
My parents were just like, "Nah, dude, we're not doing all."
Well,
that.
I had the front pegs, and you remember the movie Rad? I thought I was going to like spin it around and jump. I never got there. I never got there.
You tore your shin apart.
Yeah, killed my shin. Number 2, what sport did you grow up playing?
Really nothing.
But like backyard basketball.
Like basketball. Like I told people I wanted to be in the NBA, but I was a little height challenged with that. I could shoot the ball, but that's pretty much it.
Hey, that guy on Purdue's team,
either,
that little kid, looks like a leprechaun. That kid could play, man.
He's your nightmare.
Oh man, he was playing IU and Purdue got us. But hey, shout out Justin Stitnot. He's super heavy.
Man.
But number 3, Valentine's is coming up. This will air after it. So we really can't help the audience there with this particular episode. So I apologize to everybody. But your go-to gift though for your wife, Valentine's Day or not, like just maybe run-of-the-mill gift. You're out. Do you have a go-to?
Some piece of like she doesn't like. It's not expensive jewelry. She just likes jewelry that means something.
Okay.
It has to have something like, frou-frou, something real sweet and nice.
Maybe a message on it or a certain look, something to remind you. Okay, very good, very good. Number 4, favorite Bible verse.
That always gets me because it's so many.
Yeah, I mean, it's only, 60-some books or something.
There's a couple.
Right.
27 New Testament.
Oh, yeah, you really got me on the spot with that one because I was looking at some today.
Come on.
You know what? I'm just going to go with Romans 1:16.
All right. Yeah. All right. What does it say?
You got me on the spot. You're putting me on the spot.
We're going to come back to it. We're going to come back to it. It's all right. You don't have to. I put you on the spot. You can pass. But number 5, chicken and waffles. Yay or nay?
Well, I can't eat fried chicken. I can't eat waffles because I'm gluten intolerant.
So you're nay.
I'm just
so you're nay then.
I'm just like,
there you go. I'm out on them, by the way. Number 6, do you believe the Falcons will win a Super Bowl in our lifetime?
Yes.
With the current ownership.
With the current ownership.
That makes it harder question.
Really harder question.
All right. Number 7. We'll come into number 7. Best part of being a dad.
Just spending time with the kids.
Come on, that is honestly, I hear that so much from dads that are involved. That is so good. And you are now off the hot seat.
Man, that was
easy.
That's
great
tough.
job, brother.
He asked to preach about a scripture, and I go blank.
Hey, that's all right. Well, we put you on the spot. I do want to bring up, what is Romans 1:6 though? It's good.
Romans 1:16.
Yeah, I mean that's what you're here for.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, for I'm not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes, from first to the Jew and then to the Gentile. That's it, baby. I'm not ashamed, for I'm not ashamed. That's a good one.
Great one.
Romans 1:16. Yeah, because they have the 1:16. Yeah.
I wanted the tattoo. I never got it.
Yeah.
I got tattoos. I just never got the 116.
Never got.
tattoo, but I was
Hey,
just
it's
like,
never too late.
Yeah, I might go
Never
ahead
too
and do
late.
it.
They've
Shouts
got a
out
good
to
spot
LeGrand.
down here. We can go together.
Yeah.
I'll do a 1:16, baby. Hey, that's so good. Actually, I've got one, but mine was 1 Timothy. 1 Timothy 1:16 is my favorite. Which is for God had mercy on me, so that Christ Jesus could use me as a prime example of His great patience with even the worst of sin.
Ah, that's nice.
So then others too can
that.
believe in Him.
That is good.
Yeah, so that was Paul obviously speaking about himself and being the chief amongst sinners. And I was like, well, I could be like the second chief. I feel like some days.
You are the
second chief. Hey, watch yourself, buddy.
Yo. True North Pest Control. They are all over Central Florida, Georgia, and they just moved here to the Emerald Coast. I just switched my service over to them. You got to check them out. Tell them JB sent you. They'll take care of you. We are a bug-free podcast because of them. True North Pest Control. Now back to the show.
The drink of the day is just Tamber Bay's Pinot Noir. We've had it before. Tamber Bay, you can find them out in Napa Valley. They is so good. I love the people at Tamber Bay. And if you ever have a chance to go to Napa Valley, go to Tamber Bay. Tell them JB sent you. They'll take great care of you, I promise. It's on a horse farm. You've been there with me, Brandon.
Oh, my
But you can't go online, Tamber Bay, and check it out. They're great wine. So that's what we got. Just a little bit of juice. Just a little bit of juice. But yeah, it's good
tasty.
stuff.
It's good.
It's tasty. Pinot Noir is one of my favorite. It goes with everything. Fish, steak. It's versatile. Salad, dessert,
good.
whatever you want, man.
Especially
Just
from
throw
that
it on.
area of the country.
Oh, well,
So good.
yeah, when you get these boutique ones, it's so good. But that is our drink of the day. So I know, Rob, you've just got the water in our True North Pest Control
True North.
mugs. So shout out again to True North.
Shouts out.
But hey, everybody, cheers for sure. Absolutely, cheers. So very, very good. Now, back to the show. Rob, like I said, this is our first time meeting.
Yeah.
But one of the things I thought was very interesting is when Larry and Tanya connected us together, and we're like, hey, you guys seemed like you're right headed in the way, because I know our church was in Little Five Points when we were doing a Refuge City, and we're get that going. We had talked about how we had a lot of the same vibe of just this idea around church hurt, and we're going to dive into this because we have so many people that would come into our church that I felt were the farthest away from. In fact, we used to have a flyer that we'd send out to everybody, and our flyer said, "We're not your grandma's church," and you let your grandma go to our church. So we did that. What was really interesting is that where we were in Little Five, like I remember, like when you were launching your church, you guys came into Little Five.
We did. And
where our theater was at 7 Stages Theater, and right next to Variety Playhouse, to set the stage for you guys, like Greenwich Village in New York, that has a little bit more fame to it, but it felt a lot like that. I mean, just very eclectic area, all walks of life in it. But on this little stage at 7 Stages at the theater, there was an alleyway where you could park, and then parking behind it. But on the side of the building was this beautiful mural.
Yeah.
And then the backside of this alleyway had like loading docks and had like gritty inner city look. And it had these steps that would go up on this hill that would actually go to like the backside of like the 7-Eleven up on the hill or whatever. I mean, you're just going to a dumpster, but they had these steps. Well, then Rob, as we connected, I saw you guys did a photo shoot.
we did.
We didn't really even know each other, but you did a photo shoot like right there, which was sick. The one thing I think Rob did better, I always felt like I was again, $10 church, but we were, I was just doing, I was working with what I could work with, and I had incredible volunteers. They were really, really good. I loved it. And if you're still, and I know some of these people that were in our church are actually now following our podcast and watching what we're doing. I really appreciate that and love you all. And you were all so great. But sometimes I always felt like I was behind on my marketing, because one thing you did was great marketing. You had great marketing. And, you got the greatest thing to market. I think I'm doing better. I'm getting better, right? Yeah. I'm jumping in this social game, and I'm figuring it out. Little by little.
I'm still horrible.
Yeah, no, you are horrible. I invite him to collab on like everything we do, and he never collaborates. He doesn't know what collaboration is.
I got to get an Instagram guy.
Yeah, he's like, I'm just like, let your wife take over your page, and you'll be a lot better.
She would. She's so much better at everything.
Just tag her, dude. Yeah, just tag her.
I know.
Instead.
I need to start tagging Crystal in it.
She'll do it.
But
Nice.
I just remember you were so stinking good at doing that. But what made you want to create a church for people that had church hurt when you were doing that?
Man, it was so many different things. Like, I came from a space of, like, I'm really analytical.
Right.
And I really, like, dig deep. Like, I have so many books, so many, I do a lot of reading, right? And so I was, like, heavily in doctrine, like, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this. You know, like, I had to, like, keep all of these rules and all these different things. And one day, like, when I was at my home church at the time, shouts out to Creflo and Taffy Dollar, Pastor Dollar started talking about the grace of God, the grace of God, the grace of God. And I didn't understand it at first. And I was just like, I'm not really rocking with you about this, right? And then it was a specific scripture I got to, and it was, I think it was in Hebrews, and it says, see to it that no one it's almost like, see to it that no one is overlooked by the grace of God. And I was like, okay, what does this mean? And then I started kind of like doing my research on what grace is and all of this. And I saw like how it says the grace of God, it leads you not to sin, right? And all these different things. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I have this thing wrong, because at the end of the day, it seemed like no matter how much I tried to do the right thing, I was still ending up doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like, and I was in so much
Paul
condemnation.
says that in Romans 7, right? Why do I do the things I don't want to do, but yet I do them anyway?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I started and I started feeling that and just being like, you know what? I just don't have this all together. And how many people do I come across, like, when I'm in the street or just talking to people, like, oh yeah, I'm not good enough for church because those church people over there, maybe they talked about them or there was some type of clique.
Well, judgment's like the quick thing, right? I mean, like when we talk about church hurt, I feel like it's the idea you were in church and that something turned you off. And so, you kind of got butthurt a little bit, and it's common to happen.
Right.
But judgment's one of them, for sure.
Yeah, because
I'll never fulfill. Well, and a lot of
Yeah.
times it's like, I can't be good enough, so what am I doing here?
So what am I doing here? Exactly. And it's a lot like, okay, there's some types of church hurt where, like, okay, you're just not getting together, dude. Like, you got to get some stuff going on with you. But there's also times where there's legitimate people being ostracized and criticized. I saw something recently about this girl who she had to get up in the front of the church. She got pregnant out of wedlock, and she had to get up in front of the church and, like, apologize to the church. And I know they did that like 50 years ago.
Oh,
but
yeah,
this
yeah.
is 2025.
Well, they have like this little reading of like how you have to confess your sins.
Right.
But I was like, Jesus never wanted you to have to like go up in front of all these people and embarrass yourself.
Yeah, embarrass yourself.
Yeah.
It's a couple questions. It's like, first of all, you got her there, and then where's the guy?
Yeah.
Like,
Where's the dude?
So she didn't do this by herself, dude. Like,
two people tangling here.
you know what I'm saying? Right? It's, and so it's just one of those things where it's just like, you start hearing all of these stories, and then when you really start opening up your doors, you hear more and more stories.
Oh man, I had a pastor one time that from his church he went into the kind of the pornography and certain things like that, and I guess his wife called me. There's a big fallout into it, which is understandable. I mean, he was a kind of associate pastor at church. And in that situation, when you're a leader in the church, I know that the church may have to address something when it's a fallout, but I don't know that like everybody in the church knew about it. And I don't know that they had to go down that road, but they brought the family up and the wife, who was not her fault that this happened.
Wow, yeah.
And put them in front of it. And there was a moment that I was kind of meeting with him and counseling with him. And he was kind of, at first he was like, well, I completely understand it. And I understand why the church needed to like purge this. I was like, no, that is not okay. And think about what happened. Like, your wife wasn't even the one caught. Like this is so rooted. A lot of those things, and we've talked about this before on an episode, I think with Julie, this is rooted a lot of times goes back into your childhood and something happened to you and you had all of this stuff going on. And then these, like a lot of addictions can come in that world. And let's figure out like where that's from. But your wife is kind of collateral damage, and then the church was making it worse sometimes.
Yeah, and those are the types of things that we have to be cautious of, because I don't know what it is, but sometimes in certain churches, like, it's almost like they're obsessed with like shaming folks. Like, you have to be so perfect, and that's not what Jesus wanted at all.
Yeah,
like, from the beginning. And so we're in this place where we started the church because we just wanted to give people Jesus. That was it.
Yeah.
It was like all this extra stuff, like, you know, having to wear suits on Sundays. If you don't wear a suit on Sunday, people look at you funny.
Church clothes,
like
baby.
church clothes. You got to put on the church clothes. That was one thing, and like it's just like a list of things that you just run into, and we're just like, you know what, we're just not going to do it. So our tagline was like the church for people who don't like church.
That's right. That's right. That's
it was
exactly
the church
right.
for people who don't like church. So we just tried everything to just give you Jesus, because we felt and we still believe that if we give you Jesus, that's how your life is going to change.
That's exactly right.
It's you know, you could dress up all day long and come to church, right? But if you don't engage with the message, if you don't apply these things to your life, then your life is really never going to change.
Well, of course,
so it's just one of those things where like, okay, let's strip away all this extra. You just come to church, get here, and we'll have this discussion and we'll walk through life with you.
Well, Jesus never told anybody, get right, and then you can come to me. I mean, in fact, I just was reading, and I think I did like a live, Instagram live on this, and it's Matthew 5, but Matthew 4, at the end of Matthew 4, and it kind of goes unnoticed. You know, you read through Scripture time and time again. I've been fortunate enough to get through the Bible several times, but every time it's something new is kind of revealed, right?
Right.
Yeah. And at the end of Matthew 4, he talks about how the crowds, because we know the stories of the one guy being healed. We know the stories of the guy, the lame guy that was put down through the roof, right? Yeah. And you know the blind man that was healed, or the leper that was healed. But they talk about how his message of healing was going all the way out to Syria, you know, and all these cities, and these people, crowds were coming from everyone, and it says he healed everybody.
Yep.
Now, if there was TikTok going around with Jesus walking, could you imagine what the videos would be? And healing everybody. And so when we think about crowds, we're not talking about 10 people. We're not talking about 20 people. Thousands of people were coming in, and he was healing them all. And to me, that's just but he didn't say, hey, when you get here, make sure you have this on.
Right.
Make sure you talk this.
Perfect. They came to him. How many were perfect?
Well, Zacchaeus, think about all of these people. He talks about these people, and in the story, the people that were so amazed with his message.
Yeah.
The message of Jesus and the good news of Jesus. And the way he spoke, it attracted people that were outside of the church of the day.
Right.
And to me, it's so attractional.
Yeah.
And they bought in. Well, and as humans do, that the first century Christians to me are the kind of the most amazing. But then every century after that, it's gotten. I mean, we're 21st century, so we've had 20 centuries to kind of continue to like.
Mess it up,
or make it better. But
yeah, trying to make it better. One of the things that always drew me was like when Jesus got Matthew, right? Matthew being a tax collector.
Yeah.
Matthew's like, okay, come over to the crib.
Yeah.
Well, being that he's a tax collector, almost like the drug dealer that day, right? Like Jesus was out there with some folks that. A lot of people this day would be like, what is Jesus out there doing with them? But who else was he going to have at this party?
That's right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Who else was people that he hung around with the prostitutes and all these different people?
Right.
And that's literally why we wanted to reach people, because we were like, there's something about this that isn't right. Why are we requiring people to do all these different things? But when you look at the first person that Jesus recruited on his squad was like, hey, come over to the house. We're having a house party.
For sure.
Who else do we think is there?
You
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
How about the last guy he talked to?
The thief on the cross.
Was pretty rough.
Yeah.
It's but. So that is definitely why.
It's tough. I feel like a lot of the people I talked to at the time, and I know you probably had some people that came into your church, that I felt like they were given a 12-step program to get to Christ.
Yeah.
It's like it is not 12 steps here. There's not. Now 12-step programs, by the way, again, can be great for a multitude of things, but it's not about. That's not grace.
No.
And and so it is weird. So then we had, I'll tell you a quick story. We had there was a time when we were promoting the church, and we had a youth group from kind of a main campus where we were associated with. They came up and wanted to do kind of community hours. So they came in, they cleaned the theater, repainted walls, did all this, and it was great. The theater could they loved the fact that we were pouring into them, and it was so great because it wasn't ours, right? We were renting it, and so they cleaned it up, they made it great, all this stuff, and then the theater allowed us to throw like a concert on like a Saturday night, and the youth kids did it, and I gave a message. And we were standing out there in Little Five Points as people walking by. We're like, hey, we have a free service. We're going to have great music. And we did rock music, worship music, all that. And they were like, what's going on? And we didn't want to like trick people. So we're like, it is a church. And I remember I was standing there with another pastor, and this guy asked us, he said, so it's a church? And he was like, yeah. And he goes, so you like all those churches that judge everybody? And he's like, well, first off, we hope we're like, there's lots of churches out there that are doing pretty good. Right. And there's a lot of churches that are doing bad. Right, and we hope we're like all the ones that are leaning into grace and loving people really well, and we hope we're not like any of the other ones that have caused you problems. That's what we hope. But he goes, so you're not hypocrites. He's like, no, we're full hypocrites, full on hypocrites. He's like, we just know we are, and we're gonna be upfront with you about it. And I thought that was such a great answer. I thought that was such a great answer. The guy came in and he started becoming part of our community, and I thought it was great. But it was such a great answer because that's when you're honest with yourself. So I know there's a lot of great churches, and I don't want to put anybody down other than those Westboro Baptist Church people. Those guys can go fly a kite. They got some for sure. Signs. Those guys can go fly a kite. Those are some of the people that cause church hurt, right?
Yeah.
Those are some of the groups that are kind of giving grace a bad name.
Or the guy that says that like you're not a man unless you stand up at the urinal. You seen that guy?
No.
He's like literally like using scripture to say if you sit down on the toilet and you're a man, you're not really a man. You have to stand up at a urinal.
I'm not sure where that one is.
The red letters?
Yeah, I'm not sure where that one is.
It's crazy. Like he has all of this stuff,
and
I've seen
he's
the
just skirt
like going
stuff
crazy.
And the pants stuff, and there's all kinds of things.
You got to stand up.
And they're not supposed to play probably football because the pigs.
Go to cars.
I don't know.
Go to an amusement park.
I mean, you can go so crazy. It gets sometimes there are groups of Christians I think are silently happy about being the exclusive club of those getting into heaven. Right?
Yeah.
They're like silent, and it's like no. I want everybody. I don't want anybody to miss out. And the thing is I don't see Jesus and God. I don't see the Holy Spirit. I don't see the Trinity. I don't see our Creator as being this a sky daddy, right? It's just going to give me everything. But I also don't see him as being this abusive father either, right? I mean, he's a good father, and a good father loves you unconditionally in a way that's so great, right?
Is so powerful.
Absolutely,
that way. It's about the brother. It's about the dad. It's about.
But it's very easy to have this message changed.
It is.
I know you seemed you started in your church. What I loved about it is called the Bar Church, which I know you guys. Now you're not. You guys aren't doing the same bar church. Your wife, though, by the way, is heavily involved in and was speaking and preaching there as well. And she's doing a lot of stuff still currently in a lot of conferences and things of that nature. But what are you guys doing? I know what she's doing a lot of stuff. But I should have done that after the you played the 7-question what the hell do I know game, but give us like before we keep going, give us like a little bit of where you are now.
Where I am now. So we actually closed the church in May 2021. Right. We were literally like on the outs, and I want to take a moment. Like I need to give you like some love, some flowers, because like I called you like in the midst of like all this crazy stuff, and you and my pastor were the only one was like, hey, you might need to rethink this church thing and work on your family. Yeah. Everybody else was like, no, you need to keep doing this. And they were the only two, right? So I got to give you your flowers for that, man, because it was because of that, you guys, that y'all did that. And so
when it doesn't take away from all the good, but there are times where like you've got to kind of like take an inventory.
Right.
And I know that kind of like, I mean, when you're launching a church, you're juggling so many balls.
So many things.
And there's plenty of churches that continue on. But I had to walk with my group into other churches as well and just said, this has gotten to the point I've given what I can give right now, and I've hit that.
That's what we did.
And
that's what we did. And so when we closed, I literally had like stepped away from ministry completely. I was like,
oh, dude,
it hurts,
feel it,
just
baby.
like you say,
I feel it, baby.
It hurts. Like I'm sitting here and I'm really gifted in tech. Like my handle for Instagram is Pastor in Tech. Like
we'll flash it up. We'll flash it up on the screen.
I do a lot of like tech talks. I do a lot of giving back to the community. I just went to Jamaica in October, spoke to 3 colleges out there. Like just I'm really heavily involved. So that's like really where my grace is, or where my expertise is. So I was just like, you know what? Like I was so confused, because I said, how can I be so great at one thing and an utter failure at another? And I literally looked at us closing the church as a failure.
But it is not, brother. Jesus don't fail.
Right. And it took me some time, right?
Yeah. No, I know.
And so God was able to, that was the time where God was just like, hey, like, chill out, because I was just trying to say, okay, we closed the church, let's start another church, and let's do this and do that. And God, I remember one day I was going over my parents' house, and I was just kind of like in this mode, and God was like, I need you to chill.
Yeah.
Like
be still, right?
Yeah, just be still, chill out, like get to know you. You've given all these different things to all these different people. Get to know who you are. And when I started doing that, I really started developing my relationship with him more, right? And I even started seeing the gift that I had in my own household with my wife, because it was more so all about me. And even though, you know, she was pastoring with me, a lot of people were always focused on me, but I'm sitting here like, man, I got this amazing gift in my house.
Right.
And so I said, you know what? I told my wife, I said, I'm just going to support you in whatever you do.
Yes.
So it's Monday morning prayers.
She's a great
Bible
speaker.
studies.
She's a great speaker herself.
Yeah.
She's gifted with it, for sure.
She can put it down. She just spoke at the women's conference at World Changers back in March.
That's like awesome.
10,000 women there.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Like I uploaded the video on YouTube. In like a week or two, it had like 25,000 views. People were just pouring in and all that stuff. Like, and I'm just like, okay, this is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, and I know you've done some podcasts. You're about to launch another one. You've got other things coming up, which is great. And you know, and I'm here for you. Like if you need anything, you know, you can just hit me up. I mean, I'm just a $10 pod. We're just $10 podcast here. So it's not like after today and the cameras issues and all that. We always got something going on. In fact, I kind of look in our. Is everything working?
I don't know.
But you know, I mean, we don't know what we're doing here. So, but you know, look, if you want some advice, I'll give you that $10 advice, no problem. Right?
I would gladly accept it.
So, but you, what's interesting is because of social media, because of, if you can learn a way to like get that message that those furthest away from God can really find Him like that. I mean, C.S. Lewis, and I said it before. He said, if there's 100 steps to get to God, all you have to do is take one, he'll take the 99, right?
Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
right there.
Absolutely.
And so it's really easy. One of the things that I always thought that was interesting about church hurt, too, was that sometimes the strangeness of faith can push people away.
Yeah.
And I don't ever tell people not to. Like, so for instance, I've got friends of mine that are big believers in speaking in tongues. And I've never really experienced that. It's just not something that I'm certainly not gifted in. I don't understand it. I'm not sure about it. So for me, like if I go to a place, and I've been to places where they've spoken in tongues, and I feel weird. But and I get it. And from somebody outside, it can look really weird. And here's the thing: I'm not actually trying to. Look. You know, you can test me, boo. You can come after me. If you want to say I'm against, I'm not here condemning anything that anybody's doing that way, except again, this Westboro Baptist Church, folks. But. Those guys can fly a kite, but yeah, they got to go jump off a bridge. But no, I'm just kidding. I mean, God bless them. But
the church is for everybody. Come on, even the angry people.
Even the West.
Well, no, those people can
Why
fly.
are they so angry?
No, we got a problem there. I'll openly state that. And you can check me, boo. But I'll stay there, right? But I mean, for real though, the strange can be tough. So I'm not condoning it, or not. I'm not condemning. I'm sorry. I'm not condemning it. I just don't. I don't understand. There are certain parts of our faith that I don't even understand, right? And I get it, you know. And like I've had people when I got ordained, they laid hands on me. That's. I mean, it's strange.
Yeah.
But scripturally, laying hands on people, and look, when I left the church, I gave all my pastor powers away. I turned them back in, right? I mean, I'm just kidding. I had no powers. I just. Rob turned his in too. He turned him in. I did. It's like Superman. You remember, like in the early Superman, Who was the guy? Reeves.
Christopher Reeves.
Christopher Reeves, the
yeah.
real Superman, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
for me. But Christopher Reeves, remember there was one where he went like back to his lair and
Superman,
he turned in
3.
He turned in his powers because he wanted to be with Lois Lane or
Yeah,
whatever, and then they kicked him down the. Like I feel like that's what I did.
Yep.
I turned in my powers, right?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. There's no power with me. Jesus, there's no power in me. Is all you. So for real, but that can be
Yeah.
weird, right? I mean, it can be off-putting. So you have to walk a crowd through to get them.
Yeah,
There,
we
right?
used to, yeah, because we're like tongue talkers. And
There you
me
go.
and my
You're a
wife,
tongue talker, baby.
like, that's in from the beginning when I first heard about and learned about tongues. Like, I literally was like in a place where like, what are these people doing?
What
They're
are they
shaking, and
doing?
it's like this is like really weird. And then when I ended
Snakes?
up getting to
no,
oh,
snakes.
no
No snakes. So
no
tongue
snakes.
talking, no snakes.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
tongue talking, no snakes.
Yeah.
And then when we got to, World Changers, then we kind of got some more understanding about it. But I think for me, it was more so like being at a place of peace, and moving forward. And some people will never, may never
No, it may
do
not.
it.
They may not
But
experience
it's
it. Yeah.
like not like they're weird or anything.
No.
It's just like this is what we do. This is what other people don't do. What the problem comes in is when you start saying you don't speak in tongues, so you don't have the Holy Spirit.
or you don't have enough
You're not
faith.
going to heaven. Yeah, you don't have enough faith. That's when it starts getting weird.
Which goes to the church.
The
hurt.
church hurt. Yeah, that all goes down to it.
Yep.
So we had all kinds of people in our church. Like we
Yep.
literally had, and it was very interesting because like we had gay people. We had a gay couple in our church, and they were really involved.
Sure.
They were super involved, and
Yeah.
I was like sitting there, and I remember I was like, God, like this is so weird and foreign to me because I always grew up like, gay
Can't
people
even
aren't
be in the
supposed- they can't be in the
church, you
church,
can't-
and
yeah.
da da da. And so, but they were like giving, and they were like there all the time.
No,
Pastor
they're part of
Rob,
the community.
What can we do?
They're
Yeah,
believers. They love Jesus.
Yeah,
they want to know, how
absolutely.
can I worship? How can I feel comfortable? How can I feel safe?
exactly.
The first funeral I ever did was for a lady that they were a lesbian couple, and the one of her wife passed away.
Mm-hmm.
First funeral I ever did was a
Man.
lesbian couple in our church, and she suddenly passed away. What was funny about it is the one Myra, she was connected to her faith and really wanted to be in it. But Carla, her wife, which when they started in our church, they couldn't get married, and then they were able to then get married. But they, because the laws changed, right? So they didn't even have certain rights in our country. But at any rate, Myra, though, wanted to come to church. Carla had been all this church hurt, and makes sense from the LGBTQ plus community,
Right.
And so Carla was like, I don't know about this, but they got that flyer that said, "We're not your mama's church unless your grandma's church unless it might have been mama's church unless your mama came to church." But at any rate, Carla came faithfully and didn't know what was going on. Ends up though when Myra, the one that was closer to her faith, passes away in her sleep.
Oh man!
The first person Carla calls is me,
Wow!
and I don't know what to do.
Wow!
And so there we were, and so that's how Jesus works, though. That's how Jesus works.
What was told to me, what the Holy Spirit told me was like, you leave this to me,
100%.
and you just walk with people through life.
Well, I'm not in the business of life changing people. I'm in the business of showing you the gospel and
Introducing
love.
somebody else
I'm
to
in
you.
the
Right.
loving
Introduction
on you
business.
business.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. I can't hold everybody's hand. I can't tell. And then when people would try to make me like hold their hand and do all, no, this is your relationship. I'm just here to be able to help guide you, direct you, pray over you, and all these different things. But listen, this is your relationship.
Absolutely.
And when I started realizing that, and that's when we started getting like all kinds of people at our church.
Yeah.
Like I used to say, man, our church is thugged out because we had some thugged out folks in our church that was like, if you like, we didn't worry about people running up in our church shooting.
Yeah.
Oh no, everybody's carrying. Everybody. Oh no, I don't know who strapped up.
We weren't that hardcore.
Sometimes I didn't know who was strapped up, but I knew folks was in there strapped up. So I was just like, hey, listen.
Those are
they're
what
not
you
just-
really love.
But the thing is, and it wasn't just like, oh yeah, I'm going to protect my church. Like these guys really were like, man, like I never heard anything like this before.
Well, I'm not here.
Never
right,
knew
and I'm not
Jesus
here to
like
tell
this
you what's
before.
necessarily right or wrong. I mean, some of it is walking through Scripture and talking about it and sitting down. What I always felt like is somebody's like, "Oh, how do you feel about the gay? Is it sinners or not sinners?" Like, well, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Because it's so much deeper in understanding who that person is.
Right.
You know, it's so easy to say, well, they don't have, they're making a choice, and then you're like, well, you know, I've walked a lot of road with folks when I'm not certain they had a choice.
Right.
But what I do know is Jesus loves them.
Absolutely.
That's what
Absolutely.
I do know.
That's
is
what I do
Jesus
know.
loves them. But you know, what was funny is I had a pastor friend of mine. We used to do a workout at my house back in my hometown. And shout out Neil Cooper. And I remember Neil and I were working out. And he's a worship pastor in Stockbridge, Georgia. And you'd love Neil. He's so good. And Neil, though, would work out with me. I remember one day we were working out, several different pastors in my home, and he was doing box jumps. And he jumped off the box and tore his Achilles.
Oh, my
Well, I didn't know.
gosh.
So first time I'd ever seen Achilles tear like that, right? I had popped on it, but I didn't know. I mean, I'm working out, everybody's working out, but I see him down on the ground. So afterwards, I'm like, "Are you okay?" And honestly, he's like, "Yeah, I think I'm going to be okay." I didn't know what it is. I mean, now that I've seen it, I could. I could diagnose an Achilles easy because I know what it is, right? But I didn't know. So he drove himself to the hospital from my home, like with his left foot. You know, we didn't even realize what had happened.
Yeah.
We didn't even realize what happened. Like later that day or the next day, we find out he's tore his Achilles. They're getting him into surgery. They've got a boot on him. All this stuff. And so I was helping with this church at the time. I was yet to get my pastoral powers, and so I was in kind of training.
He stewed upon you.
Stewed. That's right. So I was yet to get all those Christianese, right? But I was yet to do that. So there's like a staff meeting, though. And so I was invited into the staff meeting, and the church at the time had some missionaries that had come from Brazil. And you talk about folks down and listen, in different cultures and what they face and the world they face in.
Man,
like
yes.
they can, sometimes you can see some demonic powers in different places in the world.
Absolutely.
Where America, we're like, I mean, you got coffee shops in churches. You've got, you know,
we got church every 12 feet here.
Yeah. So it's a little different sometimes. Yeah. But I'll never forget, we were in this meeting, and now Neil had a boot on and like crutches. I don't even know if he had the boot on yet. He was in crutches, like he might have just had surgery. And it was so funny. This Brazilian pastor was like, "Oh, I see you have a problem." He's like, "I'm going to pray for you." And, you know, and he gets down and he's like, "Heal him right now in Jesus' name." And he kind of looked at him to like throw the crutches away. He's like, "Bro, it still hurts." And Neil, I remember, looked at me and he was like, "Yeah, I'm still going to do everything the doctor told me to do." So you can get sometimes those things. God bless it. I mean, look, he meant and where he sees and what's going on. I mean, look, you know, the human trafficking, we have it going on here, but that stuff's happening like on the street, right
on
there.
the street.
You
Right
have
in front of your
things
face.
that are just, there are things that are happening in countries that are in the third world or whatever sense that, and I'm not saying Brazil is a, love all my Brazilian people, you know, obrigado or whatever it is we're going to say. I can't remember. But you know, it's a different world when you're outside the United States. It really is. It really is.
It is. And they do. It's weird because they do experience different things. Like a friend of mine, Nigerian, he was like, "You people in America have a problem because you have levels of faith. We just have faith." So like he would tell stories about like where people wouldn't have any food, and then somebody would just come and just drop off some food, and every day for like 2 weeks they would have food at their doorstep. They didn't ask anybody, but it was just like one of those things where they
bountiful America.
Like,
I mean, if you're in this country and you have a job in this country, you are ahead of like 99% of the world or whatever it is, right? I mean, it's
Rob,
crazy.
I think you touch on a really good point. Like our faith, we have levels of faith because we have so much. It's like, but if you have nothing and you're totally dependent, on somebody showing up at your door with food, you got to have a lot of faith.
Yeah, you got to have a lot of faith.
We got Whataburger across the street.
Yeah, we got a Whataburger. Like I can just go and just turn on the faucet and get water.
And
but what if
clean?
Like, clean water, clean,
it's
right?
not going to make you sick.
Right, right,
Yeah.
exactly. But those different types of things you think about, and when you experience those and those the different cultures and stuff like that, you realize another thing. You realize that God is much bigger than you really realize.
100%.
Like, because you think you put God in this box, right? But there is God looking after 8 billion people in this world all at once. And we're sitting here and we want to put him in this nice little box of the things that we feel like should or shouldn't be done. And, you know, there's all this stuff like all these years, you know, people every like 10 or 20 years, there's different things that continuously come up that they say you're not supposed to do or you should do. Do you remember when like they had like the everybody was like against like Harry Potter?
Yes,
and it was just like
you can't watch Harry Potter.
Watch Harry Potter.
That was a big
demons are going to come through
in
the
screen.
church.
That was a big drama in the church.
Big drama in the church. But like,
yeah, my what's so funny is my friends that are outside of church were kind of like, "What is up with that?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get it. I'm like, I know. People, it's nuts. We get bent up here in America over the littlest things sometimes.
And that goes
Church
away.
in America can be crazy.
Yeah. And now it's something else. And that goes away. And then now it's something else.
Yeah.
And it's like, folks, we got to realize, like, there's a world out there that needs Jesus.
Yeah, sometimes it's do as I say, not as I do, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's
absolutely.
easy to happen. And it's what happens when you get that pastor that falls from grace or has a problem or does something. And it's like, just chill out. Like when you're laying hands on somebody, you're not giving any power. You're just praying for them, and it's something that you're doing out of faithfulness. It's called in Scripture to pray for them.
Right.
And when they go off and do something wrong, that isn't that nothing worked and the hands didn't happen. It's just sometimes we're human and we're fallible and things happen, right?
Yeah.
I remember my mother-in-law, you know, she had stage 4 lung cancer, and we brought her in and part of the elders, and we all came around her and anointed her with oil and prayed on her, you know, and all this, you know. And when I say anointed, it probably wasn't like Saul, you know, where they poured oil all over, right? We're just talking about just a little, oil. And that's part of that spiritual side. That's kind of this mystic side of our faith. And I get it. And it's weird. And you would think, and some people would be like, when she passed away. She passed away, you know, I think it was a year and a half later. And it was a tough road to walk with her. And it was hard. She's 55 years old, and it was hard. But healing doesn't always come on this side of heaven. Again, we were stepping out in faith, and her faith was stronger through that process.
Right.
We were strengthened through that process, but by the community that was around us. And so that doesn't mean things didn't, you know, we're always kind of looking for, well, you did all this mystic, and, you know, healing doesn't always happen on this side of heaven.
Right.
And that's the hardest thing.
Right.
Fairness went out the window with Adam and Eve.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so we're doing the best we can, and life is really hard, and that's why I think church hurt rubbed me so wrong when I was, you know, when you experience it. I saw people experiencing it. I was very fortunate to be involved in a church that helped plant me, that really, quite frankly, knew grace really, really well and helped to train me in that world. I saw pastors there love on people in just huge way. And so I was thankful to have that. But I had been a part of churches that were totally opposite. So, but, you know, my day-to-day life, I was seeing people that I just felt like it hurt me to not know how great Jesus was only because of something that man caused.
Right.
Not him, not Jesus. It was people.
It's people.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have a lot of pastors with delusion of grandeur.
Yeah,
you know, they're just like totally delusional. And our church was so different because it was called the Bar, right? It stood for Believers Authority Restored, but it was called the Bar. And our concept was kind of like, hey, people go to a bar and get drunk. They're going to come to this church right here, and they're going to get drunk off the word. Like, that was a whole, like, deal, right?
I love it.
People were just like, they did not like that. Like, we got so many people that didn't understand
believers
it,
that were there like, what?
Yeah, like, they just didn't understand the concept. And I'm sitting here like, you guys really think that because we don't have this specific order of service that God is not for our church or for the people in our church? Like, I remember having conversations. I remember losing friendships of other pastors and stuff like that because they didn't understand the way that we did things. And I'm like, y'all, you just don't get it. You don't get it. You don't understand grace. You don't understand the love of Jesus. You understand structure. You understand the systematic way church is done,
and the
right
laws,
and the laws. You understand all of that. That's great and fine, but there are people that are hurting.
I did Bible Bible study with a bunch of guys in our church, and we'd meet at a brew house.
Sometimes you gotta meet people where they're
meet where they're
You
at.
got to meet them where they're
Paul
at.
said, "Be all things to all people to win some." That didn't mean I needed to go like go out into a rave and, drop Molly.
There's a line.
Molly.
There's
a line. But now I probably, if somebody invited me a rave, I could have probably done it and chill, right?
I don't have a rave.
You don't have the rave gun.
Hey, y'all, new customer of True North Pest Control here on the Emerald Coast, Central Florida, Georgia. You got to check them out.
Yeah, they get rid of all the unwanted pests in your house, including termites and mosquitoes. Tell them the jabroni sent you. Back to the show.
Gosh, we came back from our. Juice always tells me, he's like, "Don't tell them we were on a bathroom break." But I'm like, I'm transparent with our guests. I mean,
right.
I like to stand up. We take a little break in these pods because quite frankly, I mean, who's got time to listen to $10 podcasts?
I'll be standing up.
He's not going to heaven, man.
He's out, dude. He's out.
He's
I
out.
gotta go. I'm going.
He's out. You're out.
Try to tell him.
You're out.
Get out of here, buddy.
Hey, so back on the church hurt. What are some of the things you would do or that you would recommend for others to do to break down the wall that people put up after they've been hurt by the church?
Give them time. Like, don't feel like we get in this place. Even when we're ministering salvation to people, we feel like we can tell people about Jesus in 5 minutes and they're just going to change their whole entire life.
You're right.
Like,
That's right.
It's true.
no, yeah, like, they're just like, what are you talking about? Like, no.
Let it marinate for a second.
Yeah, like, let it marinate. Focus on people and build your relationship with people. When you build your relationship with people and not make them a project, but just literally like, I want to be a friend.
That's exactly right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly
and
right.
when I want to be a friend, I'm interested in what people are doing.
That's great advice.
I'm interested in what you like and what you don't like. And then
Brilliant.
in the midst of you being around people for a certain amount of time, they're going to have good times, they're going to have bad times.
Yep.
In their bad times, that's the time where you can really lean in and not preach at them, but be there for them.
Yeah.
And walk through it. It's we
man.
like to make everything like it's a microwave thing. No, we got to throw that thing in the crock pot sometimes.
Yeah.
And we got to let it marinate. Like that's the way, and that's what I would
Yes,
give
sir.
anybody. If you're dealing with people that have gone through church hurt, like don't throw them away when they reject you.
Yeah.
Just love on them and find out who they are. There's a reason behind it.
100%. Well, James, who I always thought, and I actually wrote this down in my notes and it's so funny you said that because that's probably where I was going to with it. And I found that to be it because there were times in my life when people would come to me, especially early on in my faith, where when somebody would say, I don't believe in Jesus, and I'd be like, well, let me show you where he was real and let me, go into the council of Nicaea and all these things. And by the way, I think that the historicity of Christ is so important. The historicity of the Bible is so important and the apologetics and all of those things and understanding your faith. And if you're a believer, I'd encourage you can go down those rabbit holes, but those don't really ever necessarily work
No, they don't.
right away, right? It takes time. It's that relationship building, which is what dives into it. So I'm not being critical. In fact, I follow lots of people like Wesley Huff and folks like that I think are doing a great job in helping me be confident in that the Bible's real.
Yeah.
And Jesus, I love it for my own faith.
Right.
But when people are outside the faith, it's like throwing in here's the reasons why you're wrong.
Right.
It doesn't ever I don't think that works with a lot of things, by the way. Yeah. So
it never works.
But James, wrote a book of the Bible, right? And it's called James, right? They named it after him, right? But he was the brother of Jesus.
Right.
And I always think that I love his book, by the way. And part of it is because I have a brother.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone were to tell me that my brother is Jesus, I'd be like,
Have you seen Nate?
I think he would think, I don't know, he might think so. Oh, Nate, he's really going to record this one.
I know too much about that Joker. He ain't Jesus, you know? But
he's a
I
good
can
dude.
only imagine how James felt about Jesus, his brother, and going like, and then at some point he sees his brother die.
Mm-hmm.
And then James gets to see his brother resurrected, and he sees his hands and his feet and his side, and he hugs him and eats with him.
Yeah.
And he's part of like 500 or so people that saw Jesus after the resurrection. He's part of this group. And James goes on to his death, not to riches, but goes to his death, wanting to proclaim, like, I want to tell you about my brother, who is actually the Son of God, who's God himself that came to earth and was the last sacrifice for us so that we could be made right with God. I mean, and James, so I always feel like when James speaks, to me, he has so much like validity because he knew Jesus as a kid.
He was in the house.
Knew him.
He was in the house.
Right. They played like spindles or whatever they played, 2,000 years ago together. I don't know what they played.
Was his older brother.
I don't know what they played. They
how rough was he on James?
They skipped on the lot together or whatever it was. I don't know what games they were playing back then. Right? Yeah, they had a lot of meals together, right? Not just the 3 years.
Right.
He knew him for 33 years.
Yeah.
And so for me, James, there's something about James that like really I buy into. And so James, though, says in the first chapter, verse 19 to 20, right around there, says, understand this, my dear brothers and sisters, you must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. And
that last was hard.
I mean, yeah. Right. Well, he says human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires.
That's true, though.
That's so true.
Every time I got mad, it doesn't turn into anything good.
Helps. It never.
Right. Quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. And I'm like, wow, what? I mean, look, here's the thing I always told people, too, when they were the furthest away from God or they just didn't have all this church hurt, I'd say, look, why don't you just start with some of this stuff?
Yeah.
Like, try this. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Hey, you don't have to believe it. Just try it and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just try it and see what happens. And I don't know if I believe in Jesus. Well, try prayer.
Right.
Try some meditation. See what happens. Just try it. Just try it. Yeah. And I know, Christians, some of you out there are going to hear this on your drive to work or whatever, and you're going to be like, you can't pray if you haven't accepted it.
Yeah, you can.
There's nothing that says you can't pray to God and you haven't said the salvation prayer. Trust me on this one.
I mean, he has to hear the salvation prayer.
Right.
Does he just like unplug his ears?
He
and be
wants
like,
to hear from you.
Salvation.
He wants to hear from you whether you believe in him or not.
Absolutely.
He really does. Absolutely. He loves you that much. So I think it's so good. How like you said, I know you're doing a lot of the tech stuff.
Yeah.
I know you're doing. Your wife's doing a lot of the speaking and all that stuff. But I know you're still doing Jesus.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's evident here today. How does that look today, and how are you sharing your faith today?
Well, today, like my Instagram handle is
aside from doing this podcast,
right? It's kind of like with my Instagram handle, because it's Pastor in Tech, right? A lot of people just reach out to me for just a whole lot of different reasons. They kind of like have the tech thing,
right?
But they're just kind of like, okay, what's this pastor thing about? So that gives me opportunity as well. But even at work, like, again, when you asked the question before about how to talk to people about church hurt, that's how I talk to people, period. Like, I work at a company, multinational, multicultural, a lot of different religions and all of that. I literally care about people.
Yeah.
You can be Hindu. I care about you.
Yeah.
You can be just whatever. I care about you.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, I don't feel the pressure of, I got a 5-minute meeting and let me share Jesus with them. No, like, they can see Jesus in me.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the whole goal, right? It's just being able to care about people. And I've had people come to me and just say, hey, Rob, like, I need to request a virtual meeting. Okay, because, all of us are spread out all over the world, right? I need that virtual meeting. I'm sitting here thinking that we're talking about work. Yeah. And they're literally like, man, my brother died.
Let me tell you what's going on in my life.
And literally that gives the opportunity. Yeah. That's the open door. I'm done with the pressures of like 100%. All of this stuff, having to do this stuff right away. Like, it's not realistic.
No.
And, if we're talking about doing things like making disciples, like, I've come across people who just like their whole mission is like to get everybody saved, right?
Mm-hmm. That's
like,
a hard
okay.
Lift. Yeah. That's a heavy lift.
Yeah, it's a heavy lift. But there's a problem, like, okay, this person says the salvation prayer and they walk away, like, you're not building no kind of relationship with them.
Right.
You don't know what they're doing tomorrow, the next day. Like, does that not bother you?
Yeah.
that you're just not having a relationship.
Sometimes you need to be the change in the community where you are, right?
Right.
And you're totally right about that. That it's so funny because I find myself the same way. Let me just love on you in a way.
Yeah.
And then if you're talking to me and we start getting in the spiritual realm, well then 100%.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
open
go for it.
I'm
Yeah.
open. I always tell people I'm here for your unbelief, but I'm also here for when you start doubting your unbelief.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Right. I'm here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what it is. And so now, and I've met so many amazing people because I moved from being closed-minded and about having to do this to like, now I just literally have some legit, great, amazing friends that they're able to see the Jesus in my life every day, all the time. And then if the opportunity ever comes, or if I feel like I need to take an opportunity, I'm confident because this is my friend now. It's harder for me to offend my friend. I can offend Joe Schmo off the street easily, right?
But your friend knows your heart.
My friend knows my
Your friend
heart.
knows your heart.
My friend knows my heart, and that's the thing. And so
he knows your intentions,
right? Exactly,
because you've sat with them and you've broken bread with them, and you've been there to love on them in the hard times and the good times. And
absolutely, absolutely. So it takes a whole different spin because now I don't feel like I'm if you don't accept, okay, cool, we're still friends. Like, that's fine.
Your character is the best way to send a message out, right?
Yeah.
Like you're a great person, so they're going to listen to what you have to say.
Right.
They're going to know you by your fruits.
Right.
That's what I think is so great about the Bible.
Yeah, I think that's in there too.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's in there. That's in there.
That's in there somewhere.
Hey, I also want to throw up this video that Brandon sent me because and he saw it on I guess Facebook or Instagram, one of the social medias. But I'll set it up here. This is Brandon Lake had a song that's called "Hard Fought Hallelujah." A great song. If you haven't heard it, you should go and check it out. But they have Jelly Roll, who Brandon and I were on a boat together, going to lunch years ago, and Jelly Roll came out with some of his I can't remember which album it was. He's had some back-to-back hits for sure. And I told Brandon years ago while we were on the boat, I said we were playing some of that songs. I said this guy is the worship leader to the masses because there's something he loves Jesus. But he's outside the church. He's not really in it, and he is just pouring his heart out.
You
in
can tell
his
his heart
pages.
through his music.
You could see his heart through his music, and his pain through his music, and his relationship really even in Jesus in his music. But it wasn't overtly faith. And I said something's going on here. Well, Brandon Lake is a Christian singer in the Christian genre, and came out with this very very raw and heartfelt, hard fought Hallelujah. And I guess it touched Jelly Roll so much he reached out to him, and they're re-recording it together. And this is a video that I want us to play here. We'll drop it in the pod as well for everyone, and you'll be able to hear it even audio. But here we go.
First time I heard Hard Fought Hallelujah, I haven't had a record touch me like that in so long. It's been years since I worshiped the way that I worship to that song.
Wow.
Because I carry my faith with me, but I'm also struggling.
Yeah.
And very honest and open about that.
As we all are in different ways, yeah.
I've been so bitter and hurt by the church and their dogma that I created my own. Now, because I believe music meets us where we are.
Yeah.
I needed that record when I heard it. But then to double back and be like, yo, there's a chance you could work on this record with this guy. And I'm like, whoa, God sends me the record for me. Not only does he want me to listen to it and worship.
So I can't wait. 2/7. That song will be out. It'll be out when this pod comes out. But I just think that was just really cool that, and that is what happens, right? Somebody like him has been hurt, and makes sense, right? His life and the trials he's gone through, and I know he speaks about being in and out of jail and prisons.
I didn't even know how I can worship now. What do I do? And a song comes along, and now I can. Yeah,
well, that's how God works. Sometimes it really takes. It didn't take people preaching to him.
Right.
Nope.
He already knew.
It didn't tell people saying you're doing right or you're doing wrong. Just God used that song and that album to work on him to say, hey, look, I might need you to sit with this.
Yeah, I still got you.
I still got you.
Yeah. One thing that he said, though, is that like when he was like, I'm still struggling. And people, when you grow up and you're in churches, especially like the ones that he's talking about, people think that there's this level of, I'm not struggling anymore.
Right.
But it's always going to
right.
be something there. Like, that's what the importance of grace is.
Right.
Because grace is something that you cannot do on your own. This is Jesus coming in and living his life through you and in you, and you relying and trusting on him. The moment you try to rely on yourself, this struggle is always going to be evident, right?
100%.
So it's
100%.
when you hear, there are always trigger words that you can hear when you could tell someone's been through a lot of church hurt, when they're talking about, I'm still struggling, I'm not there yet, and all this stuff. Like, but really, we have to understand, like, we're never going to be there.
Yeah.
It's all about Jesus.
100%.
And so I'm glad that he had this opportunity
You're not a finished
to understand that. Right. And so
you're never going to be on this side of heaven.
On this side of heaven, you're never going to be it. But somehow or another, they felt that the people that they are around are perfect and all of that. And that's also why when they see a leader fall for whatever reason, they just lose it, and they're just totally disenfranchised.
Yeah, it's like, well, of course. I mean, I'll never get there. That guy, I'll never. Yeah, and it is tough. And I always say, don't look at people, look at Jesus. Right. That was one of the things we were just, because I get it. The church has done things. I actually, the theater where we were in at 7 Stages was run by the LGBTQ plus community, and they're so gracious to have us there, which I thought was just amazing. And they asked me to come one time to a meeting they were doing that was on bullying. They said, "Hey, would you come? We're doing a big kind of conference in the theater on bullying, and we're going to have different guest speakers. I mean, you're not asking me to be on a big guest or whatever." And they're like, no, we just think it'd be great if you were there. And I said, no, I'll come support you. You guys supported me. And I thought bullying, I had young kids at the time in elementary school. And I said, man, I want to, I'm against bullying. I'm anti-bullying, right? Well, I show up, and the panel is all, you had a trans man, a trans woman, you had a lesbian, you had a gay couple, and they were all these things, and they were there about the bullying that happens in their community. And I was sitting amongst people that were all part of that community, and some were and some weren't, and different. They had different journalists there, and all walks of life. And the stories that were coming out as these people were giving their testimonies were just, I mean, I was in tears listening to how tough it was. And at the end, they opened it up to Q&A, so the audience could ask the panel. And they had people that were radio jockeys and different things in that community, and they were asking them about their experiences and going back and forth. And this guy gets up, and he's an older gentleman, a gay couple, and he gets up, and he was said he had grown up, I think around like Tallahassee or something like that, or maybe it's probably the Gators, but he said the one thing we haven't talked about is that is how what the church has done to us. And so the moderator there was from the community, and she looks up at me and sees me in the back of this audience. I'm like in the back, like I kind of sneak in, I don't want to like be. They told me I was there to support them, right? And she goes, by the way, our pastor's up in the corner up there, and the spotlight turns. It's like, boom, right on me,
pin drop.
And they're like, pastor. And first off, I was kind of like, I was proud of the fact that they would have said our pastor, which I thought like really was cool.
Yeah.
But then I was, I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, well, on behalf of all churches everywhere,
the whole wide world,
I want to apologize because that's not the Jesus I know.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. And of course I apologized, and I talked about them, how much I think Jesus loves them, and that if they wanted to have a conversation, I'd be happy to have a conversation. That we do meet every Sunday. But that aside from Sundays, I could meet with them at any time and sit down and break bread with them at any time. But the church, is full of people that make some bad decisions. And so we dived into that, and I did. It took me probably 2 hours after that conference was over for me to leave.
Wow.
The amount of people I talked to and the conversations I had just from saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're hurting. I'm sorry the church hurt you. But let me tell you, I want to talk to you. If you want to talk about Jesus, if you want to talk about that, or if I can pray for you, if I can do anything for you, I'm here for you. And I love you. And the Jesus I know loves you.
Amen.
And just saying that sometimes is so powerful, sometimes being there. But you talk about not getting it right, too. What I shout out to Pastor Bo Adams from the Plant Church that I came from, Community Bible Church, Stockbridge, Georgia. I think they do a great job of grace there. And Bo used to always say in church, and I say it all the time now, and I said it on this podcast, but he said there's 3 stages in life. You're either in a problem, coming out of a problem, or going into a problem.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
So if you think it's always going to be roses, that's not the Christian life. That's just
not
life as a believer or outside of a believer. Those are the 3 stages, right? And so my faith is what helps me navigate those stages.
Absolutely.
For sure. Rob, you know what? Now it's time for us to play. Do you have a Delve card? It is now time.
Oh, we got
to play
some
games.
Play our game. Here we go.
Let's go.
Juice, oh juice, where are you? We're waiting patiently for what you do. Google Guru, he'll make it right. In a flash, he'll solve the fight. Oh man, he's good at poker, that's right.
Hey, I'm so
that was a $10 jingle right there, man.
I'm so good at poker. I just want everybody to know I won this.
Oh my gosh!
I won the season tournament.
Wow.
I should have said this earlier.
No, that's all right.
Juice won our season-ending tournament, and I think we had 14, 15 players, or how many players were there?
13, I think.
13, 14 players.
Nick backed out, yeah.
Oh, yeah, so 13 players, but which it's a massive thing. We would play till 3 a.m. I was like right outside the money at like 4 or 5, so they paid top 1, 2, and 3. So I played all night and then went out right before the end. But Juice, there was a moment in time I didn't know you.
Oh, I was about to be third or fourth with you. Me and you were
we were right there, and then you got the right.
I don't know what
hand
happened. It was so late. I don't even know how it happened.
What was your hand on your final heads up?
I don't even remember what it was.
No idea.
I don't even remember. Everyone was in delirium by 3 a.m. It was so crazy because it just took so much. Because we played. You get points every week for where you finish in our tournament, because we play kind of a tournament style on Mondays, and so you get a point. So if you finish, like if there's 10 people playing and you win, you get 10 points and down
like
to
NASCAR,
1, right?
Kinda, I guess, yeah. Like a point system.
And so then that adds up, and at the end of the year, that seats you in how many chips you get in the year-end tournament. So Juice and I you were actually first.
Tied,
we were right,
yeah.
essentially tied, and so we both had very similar number of points, and then from there you have chip, and that helps you if you have more chips than everybody else. It just gives you advantage, but the idea is to promote people to come and play on Mondays if you're going to play in the year-end tournament. Yeah. So, but it's a lot of fun. And,
it's great.
And here's a shout out to the year-end tournament. This is like one of the longest running poker games in our area. Juice has been running. He's the commissioner of our league. 15 years in our league.
Good.
And it's really cool. A lot of incredible dudes. And we have such a great time. And what was funny is, so the year-end tournament, we all bring food, and we had a guy that did a butt. Danielle made some I don't even remember what she made. Cornbread.
Awesome cornbread.
We was so
Shout out Danielle.
All her stuff she makes is great. And we had guys bringing chips and plates and baked beans and
that sounds
all this stuff. And so
I'm like hungry now.
Well, we're going to eat after this, so we're going to go get it. It won't be as good. That meal was so
mac
good.
And cheese, like
mac
and cheese, bro. It was fire.
We had such a great meal. But here, for the first time in 15 years, we're there. And look, I don't know that it's us and this podcast and where we are and all, but for the first time, somebody looked at me and said, "Hey, would you bless this food?"
Wow, look at you.
And I remember, so we prayed over the food at poker, and one of our guys was like, after we got done, like, "We've come a long way in this poker league." Because think about it, you were you were real young jabronis running around Crab Island, before, and I just remember it was like, we've come a long way in this poker league. But that's what it takes. You just love on people. You're doing things, and as you grow up, you get you're more mature, and you start leaning into this stuff. And
we find out we all kind of deal with the same stuff.
We do.
We do.
So this is Delve Cards. I say it every time. DELVE. You can look it up. Delve Cards online. Parents, a great tool to have, conversational tool to have when you're at your kitchen table and your kids are in those teen years and they're like, "How's school?" "Oh, it's fine, whatever. Pull out a Delve card and it'll start a conversation. We're going to play one of them right now. Juice, what's the card?
All right, so what is everyone making too big of a deal about?
Ooh.
So current
Taylor
news,
Swift.
what is everybody?
Taylor Swift
that's my answer,
and the Chiefs, right? I mean, that's a
big
easy
deal. Deal about.
Who's been making a big deal about it? I mean, we could easily say some of the politics. I mean, but we could go that way.
That's too obvious.
Well, if you jump on social media, the world's falling apart. But when you're living out in the life, I mean, I get along with a lot of people in different viewpoints, in life.
Watch a lot of news. Your life's pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, life's pretty good.
You don't do it,
This side of the internet, life's pretty good. In IRL, it feels pretty good.
So a common thing, I guess, like traffic. I mean, what is everybody freaking out about?
Yeah, I mean, I do
think
think
overdevelopment. They're building too fast.
Yeah.
The roads aren't there yet.
Yeah.
Right? That's
Well, where do we put the roads?
Which that's legit though.
We're on an island.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
where are we gonna
legit.
put 'em?
No,
Yeah.
just they're not widening them.
I get you.
It
I
needs
get
to be.
you.
yeah, some of your concerns can be valid. I get it.
I guess infrastructure would be.
Infrastructure
But
could be
that's-
big.
That's valid though.
Rob, you got anything people are making too big of a
deal about?
deal
that's
about?
not really a big deal.
I don't know.
Man, you know what? What was to me like when they were about to shut TikTok down? Like they're
Oh yeah,
selling
Like that was
these
really gonna
phones
yeah.
I saw that
for like $50,000 because TikTok isn't in the App Store anymore. So you can't just go and download it. It has to
Really?
have been on your phone.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
there have been offers up to $50,000 if you still have TikTok on your phone for you to sell it.
I
like-
want you to know that
This
you
phone
can
is for
come
sale,
and buy my
everybody.
TikTok.
Yeah, that's fine. You buy, sell your phone.
I'm
yeah.
selling it right now for $49,900. $49,999.
Great deal. Love that app.
I got
that
a
app.
great deal on TikTok right now.
Can you
and
still
I
not
just
get
didn't
it?
Understand?
What is it? Not in the App Store right now?
You can go ahead and pull up your phone. Now it's not in the App Store.
So
and so
I trust you.
Yeah,
Microsoft buying that?
I don't
I don't
Is
have it.
Microsoft buying the company?
TikTok?
The U.S. version?
No, I think Oracle. I think what they
Oracle.
said, Oracle might be buying it.
might
That's
be
what I
doing
saw.
it. We'll see what happens.
But I think like people crying that TikTok was like going
Yeah.
offline. I'm like, folks, like, I mean, I understand you like the app, but crying,
Yeah.
It's going to be
like,
okay.
yeah,
Can
like
you get paid on there?
I wonder if we ever
I
go
guess.
back to
Something
analog,
to be paid
right?
on
Is there going to come a time where social media? I mean, because it feels sometimes it's such a bombardment, right?
Yeah.
And is there a time when the young kids are doing it, but I run into I was down in Delray, shooting the pod with my buddy that this last pod, and his son came over and he's 30, like call it early 30s, maybe mid. But he was telling me he took Instagram and all that stuff off. He was like, I keep X because it feels like it's quicker and
Like
I
a
just
news source to an
Yeah,
extent,
yeah. He
yeah.
said I just kind of keep. That's the only one he has. But he took all like
Yeah.
like
I don't
he
blame
just
him.
he dumped it. My son I think has TikTok, but he doesn't have Instagram or Facebook. Like he has accounts,
Yeah.
but he doesn't even. He took them off his phone.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there's a shift. I know not everybody's doing that, but there's a shift for alcoholic beverages. There's non-alcoholic beverages has become one of the fastest growing markets in that world,
I
right?
heard that, yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're like,
Now it's
there's
not
a,
like don't kid yourself. It's not like in the 90% of it, right? But we're talking going from zero base to like
Yeah.
5%.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah, they just opened up a
I
spot.
listen to podcasts for news.
Well, podcast has become pretty
like,
open. You've got to be careful about all that stuff. I mean, you got to be careful about traditional media.
All of it.
But look, you go down a podcast and you listen to it. You're getting look.
For an hour and 40
Again,
minutes, I can hear
say,
what's up.
I say me, check me, boo. You don't have to believe everything I say when I tell everybody on any news source, whether it's Jabroni, our Jabroni podcast here, what the hell do I know, or if it's somebody else and Joe Rogan. I mean, it doesn't
gotta
matter
check it,
where it
yeah.
is, right? You should be seeing different sources.
Yeah,
If you're getting it
absolutely.
from different ways, then you can start to buy into it.
And I think
But
that's
if it's
what's
only coming
different
from
about-
like one source, you could be getting from the wrong well,
Yeah.
and that's outside of faith. That could be anything.
Yeah.
Could be anything.
Well, I saw
Absolutely.
a video. The guy was documenting. He's like, screen time with kids nowadays. They'll
Sure.
spend like a third of their life.
It could.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Screen
it could.
time alone.
Yeah, put the
It's
phone down,
crazy.
right? Yeah, put the
Yeah.
phone down. It's one of the things. But look, I mean, I buy a lot of stuff. I mean, online. I because this is going to air after Valentine's Day, I actually had some incredible like long stemmed roses, like old school long
Really?
stemmed roses, and 24 of them because February 10th is, and we always celebrate February 10th because it's our wedding anniversary, so that kind of meshes into our
together,
Valentine's
yeah.
Day. Not that we don't say Happy Valentine's to each other, but that's where we focus on the 10th, and it's 24 years for us. It's 24, I think,
Man,
for you
congrats.
coming up, right? You were 01 too.
Oh, we're just
Or you
saying.
were 02. You were 02. So
I'm
you're
23.
23.
I'm 23.
You're one behind us. So 24
Mine's
years of
Valentine's
marriage. We
Day.
had- Last September
Mine
is
is
30.
Valentine's.
Last September is 30 years together since high school. So 24 years of marriage will be February 10th. So I had 24 long stemmed roses ordered to be delivered on February 10th.
That's nice.
Social media.
Oh, yeah.
Social
Popped
media
up.
Yeah, pops
was
up
popping
and you can
up,
Go ahead
and I was like, "Oh, these look." I was like, "These look like these are fire." I was
Yeah.
like, I'm getting this, and so I clicked on it.
It helps.
Hit the button.
I don't think it ever
gone.
goes away, but it's part of us now. It's going to be wild to see how it evolves.
There are tools. There are
And Rob's
tools
in
now
tech, so
that
he
will.
knows.
There are tools now that you can put on your phone that will actually restrict certain apps. You only want to have so much time, so you can self-manage too.
Yeah.
What's the next
Yeah.
phase of
Gotta be good at
this?
that.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
What does this go to?
Yeah.
Is it in their head? Is it glasses? What
My
is it?
father-in-law, God bless him, man. If you follow along this pod, my mother-in-law. We talked about her earlier, but she passed away at 55 with lung cancer. My father-in-law had a blood clot, went to his heart at 57. He was gone 3 days before Christmas in 2012. So my wife, and they were pillars for me, but I mean they were my wife's mom and dad. And when you think about I know my wife knows I'm behind her. But in life, your parents are really the folks here on this earth that are the most behind you.
Yeah.
And she lost her support system at 34 and was an orphan at 34. And that's always been tough.
hard.
And I mean, she had, and talk about hurt, she had church hurt, but she had pain at God, And so she went through that and had to kind of go through that. But her dad, man, what an influence in my life. But I remember he said, I mean, mid 2000s or whatever, early 2000s, I remember saying that there will come a time here pretty soon, and he and obviously he couldn't see and it happened in his lifetime. He said, in my lifetime, I think most Americans will have a computer with them.
It's true.
And he said, and sure enough,
Look at
there it is. And he didn't know it was going to be a phone. He thought kind of a personal computer, but you have
the Palm Pilot.
Palm Pilot.
Pilot,
back in the day.
The Palm Pilot,
with the stylus.
But these iPhones and Android, I mean, these are real legit
They
computers.
are.
You're on the internet, you're texting, you're emailing, you're doing everything. You can save it. They now have USB drives that can plug into them. You can do so many things through your phone.
Everything.
It's unfreaking believable. So I want to now, after the Delve cards, I feel like we kind of beat that question to death. One of the questions I want to ask you is how do you, switching gears again, how do you share your faith with your kids? I mean, I know I want my kids, I've always wanted my kids to know Jesus, right? But I want their faith and I want them to have a relationship with Jesus, but I want it to be their relationship with Jesus. So what are the things you do? And I know your kids are young, but what do you things you do?
Well, I think with my 9-year-old, she's the one that's becoming more inquisitive. And I mean, we have her in, private school and Christian school and things of that nature, but we're big on allowing her to see how we live our lives. Like, sometimes you run into families where like they only are Christian on Sunday morning, like, and then that's it. Like everything else goes haywire like the rest of the week. But we more so focus on everyday living life. So like we're in town right now for a gymnastics meet that's on a Sunday. We won't be in church. And so we just want our life living to be reflective of her seeing how we do things, right? And so, and we allow her to ask questions. If there's there's certain things that we can't control that she runs into at school.
Sure, 100%.
And that instead of saying,
shield your kids from everything that happens.
Yeah, we can't just be like, don't do this, don't do that. But we let her ask questions. And we pose questions back to her. How does that make you feel? What do you think about that? And that's how we want to just continue to have her grow, because we do want her to have a relationship with Jesus. Now, the amazing thing about it was like last year, she just came up to us and was like, I believe in Jesus. I want to get baptized. And we were just
That's
like,
awesome.
whoa.
That's great.
But she understood why.
Yeah, she understood why.
Well, I'm sure.
And
when my kids, when my son was probably around the same age, all my kids were probably right around there too. And when they started talking about it, we sat down and talked to them about it. And I'm here to tell you, Rob, I think you're dead on. When my kids are small, we prayed with them. We do it now. I always tell them when there's a problem, well, let's pray about it. Let's talk about it. But I think just being realistic about your faith, and again, allowing them to ask questions with your faith, that's kind of where it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when we were in Rome, I thought what was interesting in Rome, we went on that trip in Greece and Italy and all through, and we ended in Rome and spent a week there, and it was great. And I remember there's a day that my oldest two were tired, and they kind of wanted to just rest in and sleep in the morning. We didn't have excursion or anything. But I had told my kids about these stairs that were the Sancta Cristo or something. So the basis of these steps were the first Roman emperor that was Constantine's mother.
She was
very big into the faith. She became a Christian. Constantine became a Christian around 400, I think it was, A.D.
Yeah,
And
that's about right.
that's when they legalized Christianity, really,
Right.
and then started putting together the Bible and not putting together the Bible, bringing these letters
together,
and books that have been preserved for years. They started pulling things together to create what we have. And but they went to Jerusalem after the sacking of Rome or Jerusalem, and the church there. They went and found the steps, what they believed to be the steps that Pontius Pilate would have taken Jesus up and down, and they brought them to Rome, and they're at the foot of this church, and so you can go up, and they have them covered in wood with plexiglass on them. You see blood all over these steps as you're going up, and the only way to make it from the bottom of the steps to the top is on your knees in prayer. And people go a pilgrimage to pray there.
And these aren't like 6 steps.
And again, this is part of that mystic of our faith.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any power in these steps, but it is just this honoring fact, this presence of the Spirit and all of these things. My kids, we said, well, we might go do this. I don't know if y'all want to do it. My youngest, so it's very interesting in her faith. I could tell she was disappointed and said, listen, if you want to go and do these steps, your mom and I, we will get an Uber and we will go over there and we will do it. She said, yeah, I kind of want to do it. And so the 3 of us just went. And so it was fine. My oldest two, no big deal. There's no judgment there on them or anything, right? It's just my youngest was like, I want to kind of experience this and do it. She needed to be hers. Yeah.
My 9-year-old Kaylin, she's a doll. So this story goes back to Christmas Eve last year, right?
Yeah.
So I'm at Target, and Christmas Eve is always bananas, and I try not to be in anything because it's
your age especially, your kids' age especially,
right?
Yeah.
So like it's Christmas Eve, and I'm walking across the street, and I have my earbud in my ear, and I'm literally just walking into Target, and like there's this big strip of watch for pedestrians in the street, right? So I'm looking both ways, and I'm just walking across the street. Well, I get to one part of it, and this guy like floors it, and I'm right there, right? And that hit a button for me. So much so, even though I'm on the phone and I'm talking to my wife in the car, I turn around and I say,
"Yeah, boy,
bleepity bleep bleep bleep." Right?
Wait a second.
It's coming out of my mouth.
Right? Yeah, like it's like
on?
because I felt threatened. You know what I mean? And I turned around and I'm like, if this guy wants a piece of it, it's about
It's
to go
on,
down, right?
Yeah. I'm surviving right
My
now.
people in my church carrying, baby.
Right. And so I'm literally like standing there, and my wife is like, Rob, you're on the speakerphone. And I said, oh my. Now my son, he was like 4. He didn't, he was like
catching on, right?
Louis, whatever.
Yeah.
But my daughter like gets in the car. She says, Daddy, you use some bad words, right? And to this day, she brings it up. But the way I was able to talk to her and just say, like, understand that Daddy's not perfect.
Yeah.
Like, understand Daddy makes mistakes. Understand that Daddy gets angry and all these different things. And, I've always been known to have, like, anger issues, like, when I was younger. Like, and so those are some of the things that
I've had to work
come
on
out.
that myself.
Yeah.
I'm the nicest guy until I'm not.
Yeah.
And
when you're not, you're not. 0-100, right?
And I'm like, who is that guy? And I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
It takes me a long time. That guy.
Yeah.
He's in here, and I try to control that guy.
It takes me a long time.
Well, the fruits of us are wretched, right? Fruits of the Spirit, and I've said this before, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and self-control, right? That's the fruits of the Spirit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the fruits of the Spirit. And so I was able to utilize that. And even still to this day, I remember the time that I heard Daddy said curse words. Like, she literally went, I just kind of like,
one moment to mess it up.
Which is a whole other thing in the church, because like I said, I've said this before, and I think I said it off camera. My wife, she won't get offended with this, but she's one of the person I know in this world that has the most integrity for me, and just is this incredible integrity she has, and she loves Jesus so much, it's unbelievable. I mean, she keeps me on point for sure, but but she loves the F word. And so but it is a weird thing in the church because cursing can be so controversial in the church, and it is just words.
Yeah.
You know, it really is just words. And I don't understand what it is. And my people outside the church, my friends outside the church, they just think it's hilarious how the church can be so like put together. You know, you can't say certain things, you know, and they just think it's so funny. Some of the people I know that are outside the church, and I get it because sometimes I'm like, so for my kids, I've always said, look, your words matter,
right,
and they mean something, and how you use them means something.
Right.
But I don't like. It is what it is. I've not tried to control.
Absolutely.
Like I've not tried to,
Do those words really mean something? So if somebody's dropping, what is the context of it?
Right. Well, look,
when they say
James said to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to be angry.
Slow to anger.
Yeah.
And that can work inside your words.
But what he also said in there was where he says, out of the same mouth cannot flow blessing and cursing. But see, the problem is we think cursing and cussing is the same thing.
Right, no, but cursing
someone like you suck, you're going to hell, you're stupid.
That's exactly.
Just go
what did that mean?
Right.
Curse.
Yes.
Exactly, because you have to sit back and think about it. Do you think Jesus is really concerned about someone saying a curse word?
100%.
Or turning around and telling your brother, you're a piece of crap, I hate you,
right.
and all these different things.
That's what he's concerned with.
That's what he's concerned about. And so, I think that, and I just wanted her to understand, like, we all make mistakes, we fall, blah, blah, blah. And just not to have this condemn. Use better words.
Better words.
Right.
I get it. every other word doesn't have to be a cuss word, but cursing.
Right.
Yeah, it's very
rant liquor. Right. What if somebody says that to you in a different language? You don't even know what they're saying.
Have no
How
idea.
can you be hurt? You're like, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't even know what you said.
Yes, boy, man. That's so. Listen, we're gonna shift gear. We're getting to the end of this thing, and so now it's time for our section where we're gonna answer some of our audience's questions. So I've got a question that was sent in to us.
Nice.
We do. It's again, if you're following along, it's at $10podcast@gmail.com. So that's 10.
For that.
I should get a music for that. I'll have to get a jingle for that. But it's 10. So the number 10. So $10podcast@gmail.com. Send it in to us. You can write into us, say "Dear Jabronis," and give us your question. so we got a question that came in. We keep it anonymous, so when they email in, it doesn't matter what your email is. If you put your name on it, whatever it is, I want you to know. And you can check us here, but I want you to know we don't say names, even though Juice questions all the time. I never give the name. Well. I don't give a name or where you're from unless there's if there's some explicit thing that you say that I can. But for us, all I'm going to read is a question. So this came in, and we'll all try to answer this person's question. So it says, Dear Jabronis, I'm in high school, and I think I'm going to get my first really bad grade. I've told my parents that everything was fine. My parents are going to kill me. Any advice?
Well, Sophie, don't tell your parents.
That was me.
Was that you?
That was me.
I was like, just buckle up, Buttercup.
So what are they gonna do?
No, I honestly, the best thing to do is just to say, hey, you know what?
Sooner the better, right?
The sooner
Rip
the better.
Rip the Band-Aid early.
Rip the Band-Aid, because I went so far as to like do copying and trying to like change the grade, but guess what? You have a GPA.
Look, this is a great opportunity. First off, just relax. Just relax for a second. Relax for a second, because what I want you to know, and your parents can get super angry, and they have every right to. A lot of it's going to be because of the lack of transparency and honesty versus the grade.
Yeah.
But what I want you to understand, one, is that this grade's not going to ruin your life.
Nope.
I've never met an employer to say, can you give me your high school GPA? So just stay focused, learn from it. The lessons you're going to learn here is to be to just have the transparency with your parents and have that open relationship, and it's going to be good. Now here with me, without me knowing your family situation, I would tell you if your parents have a tendency, if there's like a real anger in the abuse sense, then maybe talk with a guidance counselor, and somebody that you feel like you can trust, or trust a teacher, whatnot, to maybe have them be a sounding board with your parents. I mean, there's a lot of folks that would help you in that situation if you feel like it's to that point that you're really scared. Because I don't know without having the context of your home life.
Yeah.
But traditionally, if you've got a good home life and your parents are good, look, their anger is going to be well-placed anger. And disappointment's most likely going to be at the fact that they didn't know, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it's going to be
generally say, give them the bad news with good news. So say, hey, find a tutor and say, hey, look, I got this bad grade, but I've already found a tutor.
Yeah.
And I'm already going to work
solution.
on it. Yeah, have a solution.
Like once you're going to get prepared, ready to go. These are the things I'm going to do
And that's what parents
next.
want to know. Like, okay, you're
They
in a
see you
hole. What are you
trying.
going to do about it?
Yeah.
What if you come to your parents?
Yeah.
Hey, I know I'm in a hole. I'm the only one. I
This
can't blame
seems like
a
it may
single
be
soul
it
but
may
me.
be the grade they're going to get on the. This might have come last month or whatever,
yeah.
but this could be
Well, now you're in a
like
new
they're going to have
semester.
a bad. But you're in a new
What are you gonna
semester.
do?
What are you
Yeah.
going to do? Turn
What are you gonna
around.
do
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
Make them
And I
show
think that's
an
what
effort.
parents want to know. It's like, all right, you messed up. I think all parents know their kids
Yeah.
mess up.
Yeah.
So are you mature enough to say, I realized I messed up and I want to do better, and this is what I'm going to do better?
Yeah.
And that'll soften the blow real quick.
Look, the one thing I tell you, and Truett Cathy used to say this is better. Well, he didn't say it. Proverbs says, right, better to have a good name than all the riches in the world.
Yeah.
Truett Cathy used to put that all the time in books and different things. I think it's probably hanging around Chick-fil-A's office, corporate office, probably in Chick-fil-A's. You might find it somewhere. He says better, and he didn't say it. It's from Proverbs, but he repeated it, right?
Right.
But it's better to have a good name than all the riches. And so here's what I tell you too in the lesson is it's just never good to not be transparent, right?
Yeah.
And your integrity means something, and your name means something. And so look, you messed up. Don't dwell on it. Shame doesn't exist, in our faith, right? So move forward and just do better, right? That's all you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a part of growing up.
It is a part of growing up.
It's going to be way worse things that you're going to have to deal with than this.
That's exactly
But
right.
I get it, because right now at this point in your life, this is a major
This
thing.
is a major thing.
And as you go
100%.
through it, you'll look back when you're our age and go, man, there's way worse stuff. But you need to go through this now to realize how to get yourself through it.
Yeah.
So we go through things so we know the next time.
It's just worse to lie
we're
about
okay.
it. That's what I did. Like you said, I changed my grades, lied to my mom.
Right?
Man.
Not only did I get in trouble, couldn't go on my church trip to Six Flags in Atlanta, but I was in summer school.
You
I had a
probably
summer
needed
school.
to go to the church group.
I did. I did all the church trips every summer, and I couldn't go on this one, and that upset me the most.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
not
you
the
just
summer school.
Hey,
but
look, take your licks.
Don't lie about it.
If you did this, take your licks.
Take
learn
your
from
licks,
it.
tell
Take
them
your
you're
licks
gonna try to improve.
and improve. That's
Take
all
it
you can
from
do.
the
Yeah.
experience.
And like Jason said, I mean, it's in the long run, no, because take it from somebody who works at Microsoft currently. My GPA in 11th grade, I had to go to like open campus, which I don't know if you all know about that, but it was like basically I had missed so many classes and my GPA was so bad. It was like in the ones.
Oh yeah.
And I had to take like all these extra
To get it
classes
back up
to
so you could graduate.
so I
Yeah.
could
This
graduate.
guy's GPA was in the ones, and he works for
Yeah.
Microsoft. So you can.
If it can happen for me.
Things can happen later in life where things click, and
Now's
then
the
you go
time to
with
make
it.
the
Yeah.
mistakes.
Make
in fact,
mistakes
that's part of what
early.
life is.
Yeah.
You're
we
making
need to make more,
and you're going to
and
make
we're
more.
shamed in our society for making mistakes.
Hey,
They
here's
should
the
be
thing:
applauded.
you're sending in this question, or if you're and look, if there's a young person listening to this and you've had that same thing, they may have asked the question that you didn't ask. And here's again,
hopefully, 'cause this is
if
like
you're
2 months
listening to
late.
this and you're trying to get better, and we have an audience that's kind of like 17 to 44. It's like 80% of our audience. So young
Sweet.
people are out there, and if you're listening to this, you one of the jabronis trying to do
you're ahead of the
good. So
curve.
you're on the right
Yeah,
path.
that's right. That's right.
Don't beat yourself up. Take your licks and do better. Right?
Yeah.
It just is what it is. But just remember that in Proverbs, it's better to have a good name than all the riches in the world, and that is so true.
Oh yeah,
So
for sure.
true.
Yeah.
It was true 3,000, 4,000 years ago. It's true today. I mean, that is for sure. Well, Rob, man, it has been a pleasure
Yeah.
Yeah, this
to
has
have
been
you
awesome.
here.
Great,
We're gonna
man.
Thanks for
we're gonna
having
get
me,
something
man.
to eat. And next time you're down here, we'll have to do another one. It was so stinking good. This is going to be a great one for Church Hurt and everybody out there. So now's a section I like to call "Listen Up, Kids." So listen up, kids. Jesus is so good. And the gospel of Jesus is such a profound manuscript that dates back, thousands of years. And the word gospel literally translates to good news. And we've messed it up, and we've not done right by it. There was a guy named Francis of Assisi 1,000 years ago or so that said, preach the gospel often and use words when necessary. Sometimes we don't do that, but I would encourage you, this is what I encourage you to do. Investigate Jesus. Search him in your daily life. Question it all. Question us. Question everything we've said today. Question it. But like the psalmist wrote in the book of Psalms, he said, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the one who takes refuge in him. Or don't. I mean, what the hell do I know?
What the hell do I know? I'm just JB, middle-aged dad with ADD. Candid combos, jokes so lame, jabronis pulling a poker face. Just a couple of dudes with ADD.